Maybe we should watch the sports betting one. I know those guys are pretty good. Good work. And I love to shit on sports betting. But also love to do it sometimes. Fuck it. We ball.
In 2018, the Supreme Court overturned a law that bans sports betting in most places in America, a decision that has led to our lives today, which is waking up and being absolutely waterboarded by sports gambling advertising.
America's #1 sports book.
FanDuel Casino.
FanDuel.
Free chicken dinners with FanDuel Casino.
By gambling at
BetMGM Sportsbook.
BetMGM.
BetMGM.
What do you want from your sportsbook?
Please help me.
Helmet catch.
Stop guessing the helmet catch.
Is it the Caesars Sportsbook app with Caesars rewards where the more you play, the more stuff you earn, and they have fast payouts because Caesar is the man?
Yes! My God, they even got the Tennessee Kardashians. Sports betting has become increasingly normalized in America over the last 6 years. But critics wonder if beneath the legal gambling industry's rise looms a public health crisis of unknown proportions. So is regulated gambling a healthy future for sports entertainment? Or have we opened a Pandora's sportsbook, putting millions of people at risk of addiction? Let's fucking find out.
Yeah!
Today, online sports betting is legal in 29 states and the freely associated island nation of Washington, D.C., with more states on the way. And with how quickly sports betting has become ubiquitous in American culture, it's easy to forget that gambling can actually kind of be bad for you.
No.
We've now been able to show over the last 25, 30 years that when people who gamble, the same parts of the brain are being activated as if I were taking alcohol, tobacco, cocaine.
I'm sorry, but I didn't go into this video thinking he would say anything negative about gambling. That's come on. That's too far. Have a little class, Dan Toomey. Come on, dude. That sore loser, perhaps? Bet a bad parlay like an idiot? If it was bad, would XQC do it? Come on, dude. Let's get real here, okay? I'm gonna watch this, but you're on thin ice, buddy.
Or cannabis.
Dr. Tim Fung is the co-director of the UCLA Gambling Studies Program and a clinical professor of psychiatry.
It impacts sleep, it impacts mood, it impacts finances, it impacts relationships. And when you have a product that's being given out and regulated by the government, it's got to be regulated and it's got to be understood.
In 2013, the American Psychological Association officially classified gambling as an addiction. Meanwhile, since its 2018 legalization, sports betting has generated a gangbusters amount of economic activity in the U.S. $220 billion in bets were placed in just the first 5.
Quack, can you find me one of these microphones? I've decided I want to try recording one of my videos while walking and holding a microphone. Why I gotta do it right here? All my videos the same scene, bro. I'm always just talking to camera right here. What if I want to move around? What if I want to move around? What if I want to say I'm walking here? What if I want to be like talking about some update in business and then in the middle of it somebody bumps me and I go, hey, I'm walking here, and then we cut and then you play a clip from Family Guy and then I think that would be better. Plus, I'm going to China this year, and I want to film from there. I need a microphone.
5 years it was legal. There are now over 16 million average monthly users of the most popular sports betting apps. And next year, online sports betting revenue is expected to approach $12 billion. But to understand this growth trajectory, we gotta talk about something called Daily Fantasy Sports. Daily Fantasy is an online version of fantasy sports, and according to my wife, a terrible reason to have my phone out during our kid's baptism. Fantasy is when you pick a bunch of real players, assemble a fake team out of them, and keep track of their stats. But around 2010, a new turbocharged version of fantasy came onto the scene, where you could set new lineups as often as every day, play in apps on your phone, and crucially, put money down on the results.
So you had two competitors that really arose to the top of the market here, DraftKings and FanDuel.
Kenneth Vogel is a New York Times investigative reporter who was part of a team that wrote a series of major stories about the betting industry's rise in America.
And they made a business out of fantasy sports and allowed players to not put money on the performance of their teams. They would push back against the use of the term wager there.
Even though gambling on sports was still broadly illegal, Congress
wager.
had previously determined that fantasy sports were actually a game of skill, not luck, meaning that putting money on the results wasn't gambling. Which reminds me a lot of an argument my high school friend Chaz used to make about the pullout method. The gray area.
Okay, but it is gambling. It is a game of skill in that someone can be bad at it, but that you cannot, it's not deterministic. It's gambling. Like, you know, if I play blackjack, somebody can show up and fucking hit on 20 and they're an idiot. And so I can be better than him. I can be good at blackjack compared to him, but it's deterministically, I'm gambling. I'm gambling.
In which these fantasy companies operated was pretty controversial, even at the time. A lot of state attorney generals and even some sportsbook CEOs publicly said that they considered daily fantasy to be gambling, but the industry saw it differently.
So you don't view what you do here at FanDuel as gambling?
No.
That's a word that isn't used very much around here, I take it.
Still, FanDuel and DraftKings clearly understood that they were operating in murky waters and made a huge lobbying push to defend themselves. And they were pretty successful. By 2017, 19 states had passed laws explicitly legalizing daily fantasy sports. But this effort wasn't just about creating a legal framework for daily fantasy. The industry's big kahuna was still out there, swimming around in the deep blue sea, just waiting to be caught. I'm talking about full-on sports betting.
Breaking news: the Supreme Court this morning striking down the federal ban on sports betting. Now it leaves it up to the states.
When that happened, the industry was ready to get lobbying, thanks to their powerful network of relationships in state capitals that they built during their daily fantasy push.
There was a lot of like whining and dining. That was my colleague Eric Lipton and a photographer who went out to Kansas. This is a party that was sponsored by the industry, by lobbyists who were representing the industry. The lawmakers were smoking cigars and drinking expensive scotch that was provided by the lobbyists and sort of schmoozing with them as the debate was unfolding a few blocks away in the Capitol.
The industry's main arguments for legal sports betting.
You know, I feel like we should all become senators. It seems fun. I feel like it seems like a fun job. You know, you hang out, you drink, you party, you talk to people. Like, what? There's a lot less work than I thought. You know, let's just do it. It's easy and fun. We'll split up the states. You guys figure it out. I'll take whatever, as long as I get California.
Both then and now are to fight black market gambling and generate tax revenue.
There's this big illegal market and there's no consumer protections, no tax revenue being generated. Why don't we just bring that in-house?
A lot of states are understanding that it's really just common sense legislation to allow mobile sports betting. It raises tax revenues and it puts an illegal market out of business.
And look, I know it's easy to go around bashing these corporate CEOs, especially when they got this mid-as-hell Zoom background. What is this, a map of the lands you plan to conquer? Why do you have a black and white photo of the Industrial Revolution behind you? Come on, Matt. It could be worse. You've got some work to do, buddy. But my point, which I'm making very clearly and without getting sidetracked, my point is that the gambling black market is a problem, and regulating it would generate tax revenue.
One of our biggest concerns, we have so much of the unregulated sports betting market, right? So these are the websites that are based in who knows where. They take all electronic, financing, so they're not subjected to the regulations of the state. But trying to shut them down is impossible because you don't even know where they exist.
Now, it's impossible to know the exact size of the black market at this time, but some estimates had Americans illegally betting as much as $150 billion per year. But the industry...
Sorry, that was me. That was me. It was one big bet. It was one big parlay. I lost it. I did lose it. I'm down 150 bill, which is not great. Ari didn't love to hear that, but like I think I'm due now, if that makes sense. You get the next one. Exactly. You get it. I think I've set myself up for success.
Second point was that if states did vote to legalize, it would instantly create tax revenue.
One of the things that the sports betting industry had going for it, after 2018 was, it's sort of perverse way to think about it, but it was the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic put a real dent in state budgets.
So the black market, the promise of tax revenue, state budgets absolutely decimated by the pandemic. It was the perfect storm for sports betting companies to capitalize on. And capitalize, they have.
There's a huge investor appetite around it. The companies are turning over massive amounts of money. Everyone's very excited.
Oliver Barnes is a reporter for the Financial Times who's been covering the gambling industry both in the US and the UK.
Lawmakers are also quite excited, right? Because you're sitting in a state that's yet to legalize sports betting. You have a whole load of tax revenues you can just switch on there overnight.
But in reality, many states who have voted to legalize have seen less tax revenue than expected.
The industry, the sports betting companies and the gambling trade groups push for lower tax rates.
While lobbying for legalization in states like Kansas, the industry argued that the best way for states to maximize their tax revenue.
I love that. If you legalize this, you're going to get a fuck ton of taxes. And then when they start taxing you, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute, bro. Let's talk. Have another cigar. You're not going to tax us. Like, that's not, you weren't really going to do that. You didn't think we'd actually let you tax us. That was what we say.
Would actually be to tax betting companies less because it would create an easier market for the companies to operate in. Okay, whatever you say, Mr. Businessman. All right. But in 14 jurisdictions that legalized and followed the industry's tax advice, revenues in 2022 were nearly $150 million less than predicted. And in addition to negotiating lower tax rates, the industry also convinced many states to classify huge chunks of their advertising spend as tax write-offs.
When we talk about deductions for advertising and marketing, what we're really talking about is the promotional bets. And so what that is you see an ad and it says, get your first $100 of like free bets, or like we'll match your first $100 or what have you. And this is like an incentive that the gambling companies are using to bring in new customers. And what they did was they convinced lawmakers in most states to allow them to deduct the cost of these promotional bets.
In 2022 alone, the industry gave out almost $1 billion in these promo bets, costing states more than $120 million in potential taxes. States are losing money on promotional bets. I'm losing money on promotional bets. You and I aren't so different after all, Kansas. Maybe this could work out between us. And though tax revenue generated by the industry post-legalization has been underwhelming, you might say the opposite about its approach to marketing.
Spreads to cover, overs to hit, and chances to live bet from the first down to the final whistle.
Download BetMGM. You know what to do.
I know what to do. Oh, yeah.
The industry spent about $300 million on TV ads in 2023 and an estimated $1.8 billion in local markets. This marketing push even made it to college campuses. One deal.
It is funny that the entire sports betting industry spent less on ads than Temu. I think they put like 3 times as much in just 1 year. That is funny.
And about $300 million on TV ads in 2023 and an estimated $1.8 billion in local markets. This marketing push even made it to college campuses.
Like
One deal between Michigan State and Caesars Sportsbook lets Caesars Caesarize part of its campus. Another between Colorado Boulder and PointsBet gave the school $30 every time one of their students signed up for the app and placed a bet. Granted, there's a lot of backlash to these deals.
What?
The lead gambling industry trade group now prohibits marketing.
I'm sorry, wait, what? The University of Colorado Boulder accepted $1.6 million to promote sports gambling on campus and then gave the school $30 every time someone made a bet? That's fucking crazy. You are an institute of higher education. That's such a fucking sellout to your students. That's crazy. Bro, I would feel uncomfortable about a streamer taking this deal. If XQC did this deal, I'd be like, not the fucking college you go to that you're already paying to go to. That's crazy. XQC would never take this deal, by the way, because it is too small.
The school $30 every time one of their students signed up for the app and placed a bet. Granted, there's a lot of backlash to these deals. The lead gambling industry trade group now prohibits marketing on college campuses. And since then, Michigan State, Colorado, and other schools have canceled their partnerships. But what's so bad about these ads anyway? Getting Caesarized sounds fun.
The public health issue is that this is an addictive product.
Oh, I get it. Too fun. Richard Daynard is the lawyer who designed the litigation strategy against the tobacco industry, resulting in Big Tobacco coughing up over $200 billion and changing the way they market cigarettes. We lied and told him we were 60 Minutes, and he agreed to tell us about his next target, the sports betting industry.
There's the denial of, of dangers, presenting this thing as simply a harmless way to have fun. March 10th of last year, of 2023, that was the day that...
I will say, thus far, my review, I think these guys do a much better job than Johnny Harris. I'll say it. I'll be brave enough. Their views might not be on his level, but I think they do. There's much to learn from that. I am impressed.
Sports betting was unleashed in Massachusetts. There was just massive marketing. There'd be trash containers. It'd be on the side of buses, as well as on, television. Just about anything you turned on would have an ad for, one of the companies.
Unfortunately, it's been a while since I've turned anything on, Professor. Daynard's Public Health Advocacy Institute recently backed a lawsuit in Massachusetts against DraftKings, and its focus is on one of those fun tax write-off promotional ads. According to the lawsuit, DraftKings knowingly and unfairly designed a $1,000 sign-up bonus. The $1,000 comes in the form of additional bets, which customers could only get if they first deposited $5,000, risked $25,000 within 90 days, and bet on events with worse odds than 3-1, which doesn't sound like I'm gonna get it.
That's not even really a bonus. That's like if you pretty much guaranteed give us more than $1,000, we'll give you a little bit of it back. There's no.
$1,000.
The idea is for you to continue to bet, which is the way you develop and heighten an addiction, which is you keep at it, you keep doing it. We hope to, encourage, other litigation. This is hardly the only deceptive ad running in the United States.
And there is some backlash building.
We don't see cannabis ads on TV, do we? We don't see a lot of tobacco ads on TV anymore. And all that has an impact on what people think and feel about that product, right? When you look at the gambling ads right now, they're all 120% positive.
Regulators in Ohio doled out almost $1 million in fines last year to betting companies for advertising that customers could make free bets. Massachusetts and other states have moved to legally ban advertising on college campuses. And all the way up there in Maine, lawmakers proposed banning cartoon characters, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers from being able to appear in ads. Which might sound extreme to us here in America, but is actually very similar to the way that lots of other countries regulate gambling advertising.
In the UK, there's like a whistle-to-whistle ban on football matches. You can't advertise like during a football match in terms of like TV commercials. Because of the advertising environment where you're bombarded with ads, it's very difficult to kind of escape that habit of like recurrently gambling.
The UK has also banned gambling logos on the front of Premier League jerseys, and other regulators want to move even further. In Australia, gambling ads are banned during games between 5 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. In Belgium and the Netherlands have fully banned gambling advertising on TV, radio, newspapers, and in public spaces. And these regulations are all a reaction to the way that gambling has proliferated in these countries post-legalization. The UK Gambling Commission earlier this year said that as many as 2.5% of their adult population could be problem gambling. Meanwhile, in Australia, citizens lose more gambling per capita than in any other country. And some worry that if the US...
Yeah, it's funny. Every time I do a video about how gambling is a problem, or I mention it in Marketing Monday or whatever, I'll always get some Australian comments being like, ha, first time. Like, wow, America's going through this, and it's like, we've been there, we're way worse. We've got it a million times worse. Like, Lamau, small fries. they're like so simultaneously aware, like sad and proud of Australia's gambling degeneracy on every street corner.
Isn't careful, we might not learn from these more mature markets.
The real issue is, are we escalating up to a tipping point where we could develop a gambling crisis, like a gambling epidemic like we had with opioids? I don't think we're there yet, and I think having these conversations now should, I think, prevent and mitigate a lot of those things like that.
Well, it's all in a day's work, Dr. Fong. Happy to solve a public health crisis whenever, sir. So outside of ad regulations, what are some options that we have to create a safer, legalized sports betting market? One obvious tool is self-exclusion, which just means giving people the option to tell these sports betting companies, hey, don't let me use these apps ever again. But US self-exclusion technology lags behind the UK's.
So I go to FanDuel and I say, I want to stop gambling, self-exclude me from FanDuel, which you can do in the US. But you then also have to go and self-exclude yourself from all the other apps. In some states, you can go to the state regulator and say, please self-exclude me from all of them. But in some states, that's an online process where you fill in a form. In some states, you literally have to write them a letter.
It would be cool if... walk with me for a second, digitally, mentally, in our minds. It's the future, Minority Report style. TV's evolved. Every ad you get on everything is customized. Okay, and you can choose to opt out of gambling ads altogether. Okay. So it's complete. You just can't get. You could just one system, and you are opted out of all the apps. You're self-excluded, and you cannot get the ads. That could be interesting. Why would they ever let you opt out of ads? Well, I'm assuming it's illegal, right? Like you would set it up with the government. That could be kind of cool, where you can just choose. Bruno Mars, the type of dude to opt into the gambling ads. If you guys don't know, Bruno Mars lost $50 million, I think, in Vegas, and is apparently in deep gambling debt. That's correct. This would be a good time for me to do a Bruno Mars like chorus joke, but I can't think of any songs. Give me a Bruno Mars song. I know many. I'm not. Give me a Bruno Mars joke that would be crushing right here. Come on. He certainly didn't have any Uptown Funk on that one. Perfect.
And you compare that to the
Cut
UK,
print,
where
okay?
I go and ban myself from one betting app, they'll ban me from all of them. When you look at the US, the actual safety mechanisms in place, there's just considerably less of them.
Other areas where the US can make improvements include eliminating betting with credit cards, which 20 states allow, taking a closer look at live betting during games, where bettors can wager on things like how fast the next pitch will be, bets where the odds are more advantageous for the sportsbooks than normal, and increasing the amount of public funding towards problem gambling resources. In fact, 9 states provided zero funding for problem gambling services.
You can bet with credit cards in 20 states. That's fucking ridiculous. Only 20? We're so fucking backwards as a country. We have 30 states you can't bet with a credit card in? How much longer is it going to take us to get there? To get to full equality?
In 2023, and according to Dr. Fong, problem gambling receives just a fraction of the resources versus comparable programs for drugs and alcohol.
Because the funding that's available for gambling research and treatment compared to alcohol, tobacco, and substances is infinitesimal. It's tiny, barely registers.
Bars.
So we need to better understand, how do we keep people in that lane of social, recreational gambling without harm?
Looking at all of these legal problems, lawsuits, and Kevin Hart telling me to download an app he probably doesn't use, it just makes me wonder if this has all been worth it. Is the industry right when they argue that the legalized system we're creating is better than just the good old black market? I don't know. What does someone with a smarter voice think?
There's some truth in it, right? Which is, yes, they shifted a large number of consumers from the black market where there are no protections at all into a regulated market where there are some protections. But for me, I think the main thing that's understated in all of that is just the denominator. But if you just have more people exposed to gambling products, you're likely to get a large number of people who face the negative side effects of gambling, which is a small proportion. But if you have hundreds of millions of people using the product, it's large, right?
I think it's disingenuous to say that, this is a safer environment for all these people, because a lot of those people would not have been gambling, I imagine, on sports unless it was just shown to them all over and all these ads and everything.
Saul Malik is a former gambling addict who now travels the country speaking about the risks of sports betting.
I do think that the technology, of course, will accelerate it and also turn people who say they're sports bettors into casino players very quickly, because the need for action speeds up as it progresses as an addiction.
Well, the good news is now with all this growth, the sports betting industry is gonna take a beat and clear.
Someone in chat called him a traitor. Such a fucking brain rot. That dude flipped sides on us real gamblers. Bro's a traitor to the cause, to the true passion of fucking giving money to casinos and casino-like entities. Net on net for the rest of your life.
Clear their heads and really take some time to get this thing right before we escalate any further.
There's actually even a further holy grail that they're still fighting for, and that they, even at that early juncture back in the 2010s, were looking at as something that was the ultimate.
This guy's fire in his eyes.
Oh no, what's that, Ken?
And that is iGaming. It's essentially like full casino gambling on your phone. Turn every phone into like a blackjack table or a slot machine or whatever that can operate 24/7.
Right now, iGaming is only legal in 6 states, and I'm sure for many of you, combining doom scrolling with doom slotting seems crazy. But also at one point, so was taken.
That's fucking crazy. You can just sit there on your phone and fucking punt money on blackjack and roulette. People will get fucking bankrupted. That's crazy. The only way you should be able to do that is if there's a anime girl game around it. Then it's fine. If I'm going to gamble with my savings on my phone, it should be able to be for waifus while I'm spinning. If you make it just the actual casino games, there's nothing pure about that. There's nothing honorable or respectful.
And this sucker out, dialing up a heater of a parlay and throwing that shit on your Amex. Legally. But think of how far we've come with sports betting. I mean, look at the NFL. In 2003, the NFL wanted to distance themselves from the industry so much they rejected a proposal for Las Vegas to air a tourism ad during the Super Bowl. And now the Eagles are doing paid partnership posts with DraftKings. In 2 days, the Super Bowl is going to be in Las Vegas. If all of this could happen in 6 years, who's to say what could happen in 6 more? 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. 42, 48,
I get it.
54, 60. I mean, it's hard to imagine, really. But if anything, it's important to recognize that
America's #1 sports book.
FanDuel Casino.
FanDuel.
Wait, no, I'm sorry.
DraftKings playoffs, baby. The crown is yours.
I'm trying to finish the...
Oh, snap. DraftKings new sportsbook app.
For good work.
Do you guys think Kevin Hart was paid for those ads, or he did it just because he truly believes and loves in gambling? I don't 100%. I feel like he really does. It's like love of the game, love of the spin. I feel like he might have asked DraftKings if, like, hey, can I do this one pro bono? Just to,
There's no better feeling than a win, except a BetMGM win.
For good work, I'm continuing.
Phenomenal video. Good job. Good work. Really enjoyed it.